And now, your host, Couch Tomato!
Hey, I'm Couch Tomato and I'm joined by
Hulk.
Welcome to Stuff for Movie Buffs, and today we're talking
Oscars categories.
Before we get into that, if you want to support the show, head over to our Patreon. That's a great way to support the show. Any dollar that you give automatically puts you into our private group chat where we discuss topics like this, as well as movies, trailers, etc. In addition, there's different levels. One level actually includes producing Couch Tomato films. If you have an idea for a 24 Reason video, it could end up on the channel. So that's up to you with the levels that you give. So head over to our Patreon and make that happen. Thanks in advance. All right, so with the Oscars, Hulk, I know you're a big fan of the Oscars, correct?
It's starting to go down, but yeah, I'm always a fan.
All right, I was actually being sarcastic. I've never watched a full Oscar in my life. The only time that I've actually tuned into the channel is that year they had Seth hosting. Mm-hmm. And I thought they actually did a great attempt in reaching a younger audience that year. But then, I don't know, some of the higher ups didn't really like the feedback. So they never did that again. And now it's 2018, a couple years later, I think about 9 years later. I'm not really sure the date he hosted, but they're entering the popularity contest. So if you haven't heard what's going on, Hulk, enlighten the folks.
Yeah, the people running the Academy announced that over this past week that they're adding a new category called the popular film category. They haven't released yet what the criteria will be in order for a film to be nominated for this category. But in essence, people feel that it will be, kind of more like the blockbusters, like your Black Panthers, your Avengers, your, Mission Impossibles, things like that. They've also announced that certain other categories will not be filmed. They're not sure if they're going to have this implemented for the 91st Academy Awards, which will be on February of 2019. They're hoping that they can implement this by then. If not, it'll be for sure for the 92nd in 2020. And so, yeah, the Oscars added the popular film category.
All right, so is this a good thing or bad thing?
Terrible. It's annoying. To me, this is like one of the worst things I've ever seen. They've done. The past few years, they've gone through a whole bunch of crap with the, Oscars So White. Then last year had the Me Too movement, and, Harvey Weinstein, one of their prominent figures, basically turned out to be a total creep, total, evil scumbag. So they've gone through a lot the past couple of years, but this ain't it. Like, this ain't what you're supposed to do to try to retroactively fix everything. Like, granted, I understand, like, over the past, this past Oscars was their worst rated. It was their lowest rated. So I understand you have to make certain.
And why do you think that is?
I think it's gotten too political, but that's on them. Like, they just made some dumb mistakes. Like, who forgets to give the person the right card as far as who wins Best Picture? And you have, like, the whole Moonlight and what's the other movie? La La Land controversy. Like, who does that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's the funny thing. I think controversy like that actually helped the Oscars. Like, every year there's some viral moment.
Yeah.
That year it was that. The previous year was the selfie.
Yeah.
Or 2 years prior, it was the selfie. So there's always something that's like, okay, what's going to be the soundbite this year? And some like, to be real, like, Oscars never really been a popular thing in my neighborhood. I think people focus on the awards when they're nominations when they're released and the winners when they're released. So you could head over to a blog to get your summary, but I've never known anybody to just sit through the Oscars from beginning to end. So I think shortening it is a great idea. But some of this is nobody has TV anymore. There's like only a few people that I know that have TV. A lot of people are getting their information from, their entertainment from Netflix, Hulu's, and those streaming services of the world.
Nah, so I'm pretty sure that has something to do with it. But also, like, I can understand that, but maybe just shorten it, but don't add like a popular category. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's what I mean. Like, this ain't it. Like, there's other ways you can try to fix this. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's other ways you can try to reach the other crowd. You know what I'm saying? Like the younger crowd, but adding a popular film category to me just diminish its value. What separates the
And I agree with you on that. I'm trying to play devil's advocate, but I think they were so fearful of the Oscar So White campaign that this is Black Panther's year from a popularity standpoint. And it was like, if Black Panther doesn't walk away with an award, I don't know if we could survive this one. So I think they did it out of fear. And, you know, me and you know that Black Panther isn't, to me, I don't look at it as Best Picture.
It's not. It's
yeah.
not.
And that's because the mistakes they've made in the past, it's like, wait a minute, Dark Knight wasn't Best Picture. You know, some of these other sci-fi movies weren't Best Picture. I think they really dropped the ball with The Shape of Water. Like, I don't think that's a Best Picture.
Nope.
But it's like, those aren't movies that I think of when I think of Best Picture. But a lot of people who don't watch the Oscars aren't going to think that. There's like, oh man, it's because he's Black Panther. And it's like, and I think they really wanted to show it some love. But the problem is you're trying to highlight films like that, which I do think could make a difference in this category. But there's a whole lot of movies that you're going to end up having to nominate that don't deserve to be associated with the Oscars.
Exactly.
And I think that's going to diminish the entire brand.
Imagine Michael Bay getting like one of his movies nominated. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make sense.
It's funny you bring this up because I actually wanted to bring up the last 10 years of filmmaking. If this category would have been implemented in 2008, here are some of the movies that we would have to refer to as Oscar nominated or Oscar winner so-and-so. Could you picture? These are the last 10 years of filmmaking. I'm going to start from 2008 and work my way up. But could you picture referring to the fourth Indiana Jones installment as Oscar nominated Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls?
No, I could not.
I could
not.
And the Transformers movies would obviously get a nod. The Twilight films, Pirates of the Caribbean films.
I mean, some of the first few ones, still no.
Not Oscar nominated though.
Nah.
Unless you're talking about visual effects or something.
Yeah.
And then Fast and the Furious movies are gonna kill this category.
Oh, they're gonna murder it.
They're gonna dominate.
They're gonna dominate.
And then also the Jurassic World films. I think the first one, maybe you could consider that.
Even then,
it's like, nah, the Jurassic World movies. I don't think of Oscars when I think of that. So obviously, if they're looking at popular, they haven't announced the criteria yet, but I would imagine it has something to do with box office results. And when you open up a whole can of worms to let a lot of the bad stuff in, and because of your category, you can't have just one movie nominated. And it can't just be Disney and Marvel. I'm just not, that's going to make it even more horrible.
But that's what it's going to be though.
No, there's going to be some Fast and the Furious movies in there. They're going to show Universal some love. They're going to show Lionsgate some love, and any Twilight installments or any what is it, 40 Shades of Grey. You're going to get some love from there.
I don't know.
But that's, you see, it's a bad idea. I don't know who raised their hand and thought this was a good idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to, like, I don't understand this. To me, you expanded the category, for that reason, like the Best Picture category. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe you could try to sneak in, a Dark Knight, or, any of these other films that you feel like were close enough so that you can give them some recognition. Okay, do that. But at the same time, don't add this type of thing, like where I expect this more from like a MTV Awards. Like when I'm watching the MTV Awards,
that's what I see.
I expect that. Like I want to see the best fight scene. I want to see things like the best villain, or what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm going for. With the Oscars, I'm going like share for performance. What actor really transformed themselves, or actress. What director really technically used his team, his sound editing, what I'm saying? Like all his skill set, like what did he use with his budget? What did he use with, what did he get out of most out of his actors and actresses? That's what I'm looking for with the Oscars. I'm not necessarily looking for this one made, 200 million its first week.
Made X amount at the box
things like
office.
that.
And it's funny you bring up the MTV thing, because I'm anxious to see what are their ratings. What is Nielsen reporting for their ratings versus what Oscars are receiving. So maybe that has something to do with it. Like, I know you're saying cord cutting, Barry, but when we look at the MTV Movie Awards, they've only had a X percentage drop off where we had, more than 50% drop off over the last 2 years. So maybe that has something to do with it while they're chasing that younger audience. But when that hashtag OscarSoWhite thing was going around, I never really thought, well, they are, but I never really thought whenever the you have a population you have a diversity mix that's not really reflective of the population, you run into situations like that. And I just felt like the Oscars don't represent movie going audience. Okay, it's 50% female and they don't have 50% females voting, and there is close to, at least 15% black, and they don't have 15% black voters. And there's like a 30-40% diversity mix. They don't have 30 to 40 diverse voters. So it's like, okay, that hashtag may be accurate. And whenever I always felt that another accurate thing would be hashtag OscarSoOld. Mm-hmm. So whenever you're that old and you're kind of refusing to move into the future or even the present, my thing is, I don't even know if Oscars are going to be here in 2025, 2030. Like, is the rate that people are cutting cords, Oscars is something it's been a ratings blockbuster over the years. You have I always believe that people are going to find a way to watch the Super Bowl. People are going to find a way to watch the NCAA championship. People are going to find a way to watch certain music awards. And people are going to find a way to watch the Oscars. But it's not really the case with the Oscars like that anymore, when blogs could report it the next day. And it is too long. So when people are moving more towards Netflix and Hulu, what's going to happen when nobody's really on that original platform of television? You can't really house the Oscars on Netflix because there would be a bias there. You can't do it for Hulu because a lot of the movies that are getting voted on for the Oscars they own Hulu. So there's going to be a bias there. And then also you can't really put it on Amazon Prime because there would be a bias. I know they're starting to incorporate more Netflix and Amazon movies, but how are they going to fit into this category of popular? Because I think they're always going to underperform when you compare them to blockbuster movies.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, which is funny because what's the criteria going to be? Because if it's just going to be solely based on money, like I don't see how that's gonna fit anyone. Because like, okay, let's say you have like It, for example, which is very popular or whatever, but then you have, like you said, something from Netflix, like with what's that movie? Bright. Bright broke a ton of records for Netflix, but I don't think it made money anywhere close to It. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you not put It as a, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, to give you some perspective, I mean, It was like it was one of the highest grossing movies of the year it was released. And a lot of times that means, north of 10 million people heading over to the box office in that first week sometimes, So with Bright, I think probably maybe 2 million people watched it. So it's because it's like there's only a certain amount of people that have a Netflix subscription. So that's always going to be difficult, man. And HBO is sitting here like, man, come on, we've been making original content for years.
That's another one.
Never fought for us like that.
That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I really don't know how this is going to fit in. Like, I just really think this is like a last resort. They see the writings on the wall. And for me, I'm not going to be mad. Like, it's just one of those other situations that need to die in Hollywood in order for it to move forward. So I'm not going to shed a tear when the Oscars kind of like die. And I really think that this is like the beginning of the end. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a 10-year period. We're probably going to get 10 Oscar nominated popular movies. And then that'll be it. And it'll be Oscars are no longer a situation. The same way, it reminds me of Comic-Con. I believe in the future, every studio is going to have their own version of Comic-Con. You'll have D23 for Disney, and then you'll have Universal will have its own thing. Paramount will have his own thing. Warner Brothers will have his own thing. And I'm missing some, but basically the 6 major studios will have their own thing.
Yeah, same thing. And same thing with like the streaming services. Like Disney announced like after Captain Marvel, none of their movies are going to be on Netflix anymore.
Good luck with that.
That's because they're going to have their own streaming service.
Good luck. If I'm cord cutting because I'm trying to save, you save close to $100 by switching to one platform. Mm-hmm. Why am I going to pay $15 for Netflix, $10 for Hulu, $10 for Disney, $10 for Warner Brothers, $10 for Universal, $10 for HBO? That's me, replicating my cable bills. I'm straight. I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's going to drive more people to torrents and, searching for illegal means to watch some of these movies. And that's another thing when it comes to popularity. Are we including the illegal downloads? Because I think I saw a stat one time. I can't quote it directly, but the Game of Thrones is the number 1 pirated series.
Yeah, and it's not even close.
And even when you look
it's not even close.
Yeah, when you look at their pirated of numbers, it's actually more than some of these shows that are still on the air. Same thing goes for Walking Dead. So it's like when you're looking at popularity, how does that factor in? It's just so much stuff you can't measure. I don't know if they should just focus on changing the name. But yeah, I think this was a bad idea. And it was just for them to say, hey, we don't want to mess up our legacy by nominating some of these comic book movies. So we're going to create a different category for these comic book films. But they forget, okay, some of the highest grossing movies of the year aren't always comic book movies. So yeah, you guys are kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah, so I mean, I'm anxious to hear from you guys. Anything you want to add? This popularity contest, i.e. most popular film, is this a good idea? Do you like, love, or hate it? Let us know in the comment section, or reach out to us on social media to let us know how you feel. So it's about that time, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Before you leave, if you like what you heard, share it with a friend on Apple Podcast or wherever you go for your podcast. Don't let it be the last time we hear from you or you hear from us. Support the show and become a sponsor by visiting our Patreon at www.patreon.com/CouchTomatoFilms. Also, join us next week and check out the show notes on where to find us weekly. It's Couch Tomato Films on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and Couch Tomato Film on Twitter. Other than that, peace.